Broadcasting out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, you're listening to The Low Blow on swfight.com.
Jorge Hernandez with The Low Blow and Southwest Fight News, here with flyweight fighter Ray Borg. Ray, huge fight next weekend against Demetrious Johnson. The world title, man. It's finally here.
It is finally here. It's been a short but long road at the same time. You know, everyone from the New Mexico scene, you know, knows my upbringing, know where I've started from, you know, from just the local grappling scene. So, you know, it hasn't been that long to get here, but at the same time, it's been a very long road, and to be here is just so surreal.
If I were to tell you 10 years ago that little Ray from San Juan, a city of 250 people, would be fighting for the world title, what would you tell me?
I would be like, well, yeah, it's possible. Anything's possible. Would I tell you that it's gonna, you know, happen so quick? No. But the fact that, you know, that it is happening just shows how hard I work, shows my work ethic, and shows that this is, you know, the only thing I've ever wanted since I've gotten into the sport. So it's crazy to come from this tiny small town and be able to make something of myself. Yeah,
you're going up against one of the pound for pound greats, maybe of all time, definitely right now. With a win or a loss, you'll be making history. I mean, have you thought about that? Obviously, he's going to set or attempt to break the world title defense record that he's currently tied with Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
But with the win, you'll become the third New Mexican raised fighter with the title. So how do you balance those two senses of history?
Right now, it's you know, I don't pay too much attention to that, you know, which is a good thing for me. You know, I'm treating this like any other fight. You know, training the same way. You know, and I always train hard. You know, no matter whether it's a title fight or a regular fight, I'm always training like if it's a title fight. But to go in there and halt history is something else, man. I mean, especially when this guy's supposed to be invincible, and I'm gonna go in there and show the world that he's not. So it's gonna be a bittersweet feeling to be able to halt history, but also come home and add another world championship belt to New Mexico.
Now, I believe this is the third time during this run that the Jackson's Wink Gym has faced him. Twice with Dotson, I think once with Ali. How has that helped shape your guys' game plan to face, you know, to what seems to be an unsolvable puzzle?
You know, it's been great. You know, especially actually having Dotson, you know, behind me throughout this camp. You know, he's giving me his insight, like, hey, DJ does this when I was here. You know, when I was in this position, DJ does this, or I did this when I was in this position, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, every little mistake that, you know, Greg and them made game plan wise with Dotson or Ali, you know, we get another chance to fix those mistakes and solve that the mystery puzzle of you know, that is Demetrious Johnson.
I know this is the first time you're headlining such a big card. Can you compare the preparation, or just, I guess, the process leading up to this fight? Is it anything compared to any of the other big fights that you've had in your career? Not
at all. You know, I've had big fights, but you know, I've had big fights to get into the UFC. But this is a whole another magnitude. You know, I'm fighting for the world title. Like, it does not get higher than this point. So, you know, preparation's been a little bit different with, you know, the cardio aspect, things like that, and then also it's been a little bit different with all the media obligations and, you know, the embedded crews, the countdown crews. It's been different, but to be honest, it's fun because it's something I grew up watching. And I've always grew up watching countdown shows and grew up watching embedded. So to be a part of it is, you know, truly a dream come true.
What is that like, though, for those cameras to be following you now throughout an entire day? It's obviously not the type of attention that you've had before. So how much focus, or, you know, different types of focus is involved with that?
It's different. You know, it's something I'm really not used to. I've never had to have cameras follow me around. I've never been you know, that documented leading up to a fight, but really it's not as bad as what, you know, I thought it would be. I'm really good at adapting the situation, so having cameras follow me around, you know, to film the journey and to film, you know, the process, which is going to lead us to you know, halting history September 9th. So it's been different, but it's been easily adaptable.
Now you're fighting north of the border, right? What's that like to be fighting in front of a new fan base up there?
It's cool. I hear Canada's good fans. You know, my last fight was Brazil, and I had told my coach, I was like, you know what, that Brazil trip was so miserable that no more out of the country fights, no more. And then they told us Canada versus DJ, and you're not gonna not say no. And I looked into it, and it's like an easy trip. You know, same time zone. You know, nothing's really changing at all. So it's easy, and plus I hear Canadian fans are really great, appreciative fans, so it's going to be fun.
What was so draining or different about that Brazil trip?
Really, the two things is the flight wasn't horrible. The flight it sucked, don't get me wrong, but I never adapted my body to the time. The latest I've ever had to adapt my body to was training, if I fought at 9 o'clock at night, just working out at 9 o'clock during fight week to get my body adapted and being awake at that time. But when I fought in Brazil, I fought at 1:30 a.m. so I never got my body adjusted to that time switch. I ended up performing real well, but I think the time switch and the time zone was the hardest thing to get a hold of, especially when I was FaceTiming my wife and my brother, and it was daylight there and it was dark in Brazil. It was just kind of like a mind trip, but I mean, you adapt and you overcome.
Now, you campaigned for this fight pretty hard before it was even announced. Why do you feel it was so important for you to call out the champion at that point?
It was very important because I knew that I know that I'm the guy to do it. After I fought Formiga, after I beat Formiga, fighting Formiga was kind of like the, nail in the coffin, all right, I think I can beat this guy. So, and a part of me campaigning was the fact that TJ was brought into the mix, and I've never been anybody's second choice. I never wanted to be anybody's second choice. I never wanted to be a backup plan. I'm never a fallback. So I felt like I deserved it more than TJ, so I knew I had to fight for it. I'm a fighter in and outside the cage, so TJ trying to overstep me, I didn't take that too lightly. What makes you think you're so much better than me? Type deal. So I campaigned pretty hard because I felt like I deserved it more.
How frustrating was it to almost get lost in that shuffle when a big name like TJ Dillashaw throws his name into the ring?
I knew it was going to be tough when TJ threw his name in there, just because, not looking at it from a biased standpoint, although I felt like I deserved the shot. TJ does have a name built around him. He is an interesting matchup for DJ. As a fan perspective, I'd watch that fight. It's an interesting fight for sure. So it was frustrating the fact that TJ was throwing his name out there, not because I think TJ is better than me, but because TJ has such more following, and it was interesting, and it caught the fans' attention to be like, oh, TJ's gonna move down from 35. I'd rather see that. So it kind of was like, it's like a double-edged sword. So it was frustrating, but we got the shot, and we're going to make the most of it.
Tell the fans why you're going to become world champion on September 9th.
I'm going to become world champion because I want this, man. This is something I've been working for since I was a kid. I want this like no other contender, no other fighter has wanted this before, and I want this victory more than DJ wants that 11th belt, and I'm hungry, I'm mean, I'm vicious, and I got a little bit of Alba crazy in me, so that's why we're going to do it.
Talk about that Alba crazy in you.
That Alba crazy is when, outside the cage, I'm friendly. Anybody's ever met me, I shake their hand, yes sir, yes ma'am, if you're my elder. But when that cage door closes, I'm willing just to bite down and just get my ass kicked to deliver an ass kicking. So that's that Alba crazy.
Yeah. Demetrious Johnson against Albuquerque's Ray Borg. Best of luck next weekend.
Thanks, brother. It was my pleasure.